All right, I'm going to attempt to talk about things that I know are very sketchy with YouTube, but I'm going to characterize them. Well, I'm going to use code words, so that way I'm not triggering their algorithms. And I'm not mischaracterizing anything, but it could be some things could be taken as something else, so I have to make sure there is no assumptions made, or people making assumptions, because I'm not clarifying or being clear on my position. All right. So, I was watching I'm watching people, watching people. That's what I do. And I watch their reactions, I watch their actions, I watch what they're influencing, why they're influencing. I mean, when I watch other people, I watch myself. Okay? Because if I see something in them that bugs me, then somewhere in my world, I'm probably doing the same thing. And so I might as well point out my own foibles, right? Because that's what we're here for, is to help society through our own weird ways relative to who's watching. Okay, so I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. What do I mean by top to bottom? I'm going to go from the top of my Facebook page all the way to my last video that I did yesterday. Because there's so much, and I have to be careful how I characterize things and say things. Because saying anything around the public health therapies, that's a very touchy subject. So I have to say things that are on that very carefully when it comes to YouTube. Because I need to put this on YouTube. They have the vast amounts of storage space that I don't have on my website. So I can't keep uploading so many videos to my website. I did enough to get me through, to get me by, but I don't want to pay for more storage. So I know eventually I'll be done with my website and it'll just be someplace to refer to and update, as far as the background, maybe put a few updates, but not so much the blog. The blog will be done at some point. And then it'll be either my YouTube or it'll be Facebook that I'll just, have the latest information. But my website will be just there for reference and for updates, just on the main page, but not on the blog site. So anyways, main takeaway. Watch the alpha males and the beta males play their part extremely well. See, our society was developed in like Cabin in the Woods, when they're showing you through the movies, and what was the other one? Not only Fast Times at Ridgemont High, but The Breakfast Club. 5 students in their specific categories. The system programmed to be a football player, a jock, a rebel, a socialite, a goth girl, and the beta males are like, the intellectual nerd, right? And then the alpha males were the football players. The alpha males were the rebels. See, the football player and the rebel in The Breakfast Club were always at it, clashing. Because the rebel was always making fun of the socialite, Molly Ringwald. And then the football player, Emilio Estevez, is always defending Molly Ringwald and always going up against the rebel. And they were both extremely capable males, but in different ways. Both alpha males programmed to be alpha males. Okay? So, so the system is telling you how they're going to program the males in our society. They're going to be the nerd, maybe about love, maybe not. Yeah, because even the spiritual love gurus out there, they're all about the words, all about the fluffy spiritual stuff, all about praying to you and bless you, right? And it's not a surprise that a lot of them are skinny and lacking substance, but they definitely have some beautiful words to tell you. Absolutely, absolutely. Then you have the alpha males, the rebels. Now look at the conspiracy world, full of rebels. Oh my gosh. And alpha males too. And in the Republicans, even the Democrats. And then also, and then of course the health and wellness gurus. You have the alpha males. I'm going to make you healthy if it kills me and kills everybody else. And you have the other beta males. Oh, I want to make you healthy if it kills you, but I'm going to love you to death. I'm going to love you to death. All right. So watch the alpha males and the beta males play their parts extremely well. Alpha males will instill fear into you and make fun of you and make fun of people they don't agree with. And the beta males will kill you with kindness and love you to death and be so spiritual. And when provoked or even when challenged can be very deadly. But they can be deadly in different ways. And their women, if they're so attached to them, will be just as deadly, even their mothers. Oh yeah, even the beta males, the academic beta males have their own ways to be deadly. They'll use their words to hurt so bad. And the alpha males will just hit you. Because they don't have the words to use, so they'll just hit you. And so that's how the males have been programmed. And it's really interesting to watch because they both have their ways to get the point across, academically or physically. And their women and followers eat it up. And that was how the system bred our society to take each other down. They used your men. They programmed your men. I hope you can get to your men before the system does get to them, but it will be too late for many. I mean, obviously, look at these mothers just worshiping their sons and whatever, and their husbands. I love and respect my husband. He's an alpha male. Oh, I know he's an alpha male. That's because I was so estrogenic. I still love and respect him. He's calmed down a bit in his alpha male ways, but I'll tell you, how do I know all this? Because I know from experience. I was raised with beta males, okay, because that's the sciences field. And then you have the alpha males that I married because that was how I was programmed to be. It's estrogenic, the complete opposite that was attracted to the alpha males. And so I've seen it all. And so watch your Facebook. Watch the people in your groups and families and even the schoolyard. You're watching science in action. And why am I talking about this? Where did this come from? Because I'm talking about what's going on with the projections of when the system rolled out the public health therapies. And both the alpha and the beta males were making their projections and making fun of people who got the V and didn't get the V. And you're seeing both the alpha and the beta males play their part very well in instilling fear into you or killing you with kindness and love and saying, oh, I love you. I'm saying this because I love you, because I care about you. You're my humans. You're not supposed to get something like this. And I'm like, oh my God, the manipulations are so rife all over the activist world. So what people are failing to realize that even the unV'd who are not surviving and die suddenly, who are not surviving and dying suddenly. Oh yeah, so what people are failing to realize that it is even the unV'd who are not surviving and are also dying suddenly. I saw one post in the Died Suddenly group that says, my mom, she wasn't V'd and she passed away through all these complications and she kept blaming the shedding on, the V'd. And I'm like, okay, well, everybody sheds, regardless if they're V'd or unV'd, everybody sheds. So she's blaming her sickness on somebody else. That's what's going to be the issue here. Remember, the V'd already have issues. They were dealing with and under a doctor's care, and the immunodeficient. And so it's not that difficult when the climate changes and people's lifestyles have not changed that they will be the first ones to go. And then it'll be very easy to make correlation equals causation, as you're seeing a lot of these alpha male influencers out there pounding that gavel. When everything starts kicking up even more so, then those who are blaming the V'd for their issues as well as shedding die suddenly. Or the people who never got V die suddenly. And correlation doesn't equal causation. Okay? Even the unV'd will wonder if they made the right choice. And so you never had it in you to survive climate change, regardless of therapy status. That's the thing. And so who are... yeah, that was kind of redundant. Whenever everything starts kicking up, even more so, who are blaming the V'd for their issues as well as shedding suddenly, die suddenly. Well, same thing. Anyway, so that's fine. That was redundant, but that's okay. You never had it in you to survive climate change, regardless of therapy status. With any change in the environment, you saw who were the first to go, even the last 50 years. kids and babies who didn't have it within them to survive their environment, and the elderly who are elderly on their way, who are already on their way out the door, and those who had issues. Okay? So sudden infant death was a baby born from aggressive deficiency, and they could not acclimate to the environment they were brought into. Kids with autism and other issues were brought into this world through deficiencies, and it didn't matter where the deficiencies came from. But they weren't so frequent in the population, and so it was just shrugging it off and saying it was their time, right? This was like 50 years ago, right? How did people reconcile with heart attacks and strokes even before 9/11/2001? They blamed their conditions causing their heart attacks and strokes on the food, the air, the water. But it was socially acceptable to say that you should eat fat-free. Okay, so that would probably contribute to die suddenly or heart attacks and strokes. It was socially acceptable to go sugar-free. That was the 80s. Oat bran, sugar-free, fat-free, aerobics, right? It was socially acceptable to be vegan and vegetarian and live on supplements. And so when people die from heart attacks and strokes and aggressive age, they say it was God's will. And they'll also say the person had a bad lifestyle and a bad diet and went against their doctor's orders. And it's probably true. Doctors don't want you to suffer to live. And so they'll take away your pain and suffering and even take away food the person needs. And the person needs the food and they know it, but they're guilted into starving themselves because of their friends and family and the doctors, but they're not equipped to deal with suffering to live, and then of course have a billion children on top of that. And so they'll cheat on their diets and then be like, God damn, you know what killed that person? They cheated on their diet with that cheesecake yesterday. That's why they died, because of cheesecake. I mean, it's crazy. Why did they say those who are VED won't experience the aggressive died suddenly until it was 3 to 5 years later? Well, it was an assumption. Anyone who died suddenly was VED. You see that everywhere. People die suddenly. They're like, oh, was he VED? What we're finding out, people who are not VED also die suddenly. And when there is a deluge of people dying, the assumption that died suddenly only came from the VED are plastered all over social media, as they were all VED or secretly VED or lied about their V status. That it won't make a difference, but the truth is because it doesn't matter what the truth is. What matters is the outcome. They couldn't survive their environment, regardless of therapy status. Even the VED will not believe the unVED never got the VED. Even the V will not believe the unVED never got the VED when they die suddenly. Why would the V not believe? Because at this point, it doesn't even matter. That's what I'm saying. This whole VED, unVED, it's so confusing and so crazy, it doesn't even matter. It's such a clusterfuck. And when you're focusing that your survival is based upon your V or not V, then I don't even fucking care how confusing it sounds, because that's exactly what you are contributing to. So I'm just as contributing to the confusion of it all. And this point doesn't matter. Can you survive your environment or not? That's pretty much what it comes down to. So even the V would not believe the unVED never got the VED before they die suddenly. They'll just simply say, oh, they lied about it. And that is the absolution system gave people to go where they didn't understand what was going on. And that's fucking strategic. Okay, so you could be a person, that person thinks that you're VED, but you weren't, right? But they think you are because then, you know, you die, and they'll say, oh, that person was VED. And so already the person observing them would think they were VED because they died suddenly. And so then you might as well say the VED would not even believe the unVED never got the VED when they die suddenly, because eventually people are going to make that correlate. It's already mainstream that people are making these correlations with causation. But I mean, at this point, it doesn't even matter. And so I'm just like, whatever. At this point, that was your safety. They were trying to protect you. Who's they? The system. When you're blaming the V's for die suddenly, they were trying to protect you from the trauma of the reality of what's truly going on here. Okay. Now, just getting disease from a V doesn't mean you're going to die. It was how you responded to the disease was what was the issue. You kept, of course, because you were told to, taking the remedies. That's probably why I lost a few friends on my Facebook here. I see I'm down to 971. Why is that? Because it was like 972 or 973. And I think this information here is pretty inflammatory to those who are like wanting to hold on to the notion that this is to blame. Okay, yes. you may have gotten some kind of disease. It was either was going to happen anyways, or it was, or it may have been, that DNA intertwining and it had a reaction. But you were never told how to release those demons. And so the mainstream reaction was to go and remedy your disease. The mainstream reaction to any disease is to go and on diets. Is that your fault that you didn't know and there was another way? Probably not, but at this point it doesn't even matter. Now you know. So yeah, you could say, well, people who were abused way back when their childhood would be like, oh God, it's my parents' fault. Yeah, okay, so you're still alive today. Between now and when you were abused as a child, you made choices in your life. Since you're alive today, what do you do today to redirect whatever happened? Whether 1 year ago, 2 years ago, or 50 years ago. Okay? So, at this point, when are you going to take responsibility? And that's what the issue is here. So the aggressive health and wellness gurus out there pounding the gavel of MK Ultra and pointing out those who are vac-feed, dying suddenly all over social media. Well, their time will come at some point. They have big families. They have big followings. They made a lot of money off of pounding the gavel of their belief system. They may even live longer than most people, and not because of their V status or health and wellness. Genetically, they may have more bone density and substance to sacrifice for their beliefs and lifestyles. Extreme bone-dense men who are relatively healthy have a lot more substance than the skinny women out there posting their beliefs all over. So it'll be pretty easy for the men to take down the population if they're going to live a little bit longer relative to their situation and the people who follow them. Why do you think the right-wing Republican men are so strong and robust and extremely influential? And yes, a lot of testosterone able to hold your attention and transfix you into a belief system. Okay? Because they are the charismatics of our society. And they are the Pied Pipers. And they're extremely hard to resist. And even the gay men will follow an extremely alpha male, straight male, brutish male over the cliff. And their job and their role is to clean up society. And we thank them for their service and their sacrifice. And we thank their families for their service and sacrifice. And that's why society was developed the way it is. The system needed the strong, brutish, sexually appealing alpha male men to clean up society on both sides of the aisle. And they're doing their job. Just look at Mr. Andrew Tate and all of his following. And his brother, Tristan. Ooh, brutish, alpha male. Oh, and then you have someone as killer like the guy that I posted that decapitated the dog and his parents. And then you have someone like a Wade Wilson, who potentially is gay or bisexual, killing women. And that's the extreme side of the alpha male. You have to understand what's going on and walk away when you can, if you can. And why do you think Candace Owens, bless her heart, take up for the extreme testosterone man? She's a beautiful family. She's very well spoken. And I even, am transfixed on what she says. My husband loves watching her. And so why do you think Candace Owens takes up for the extreme testosterone man? Because innately she even knows they're used to clean up society, even if it's the people she represents. And we thank her for her service. She has her own show now. She's taking the place of The View. She's replacing Whoopi Goldberg and the other ladies. Okay? We thank the Republican women for propping up their strong alpha males to clean up our society. I just hope they don't clean you up. I hope you understand what's going on. I hope you teach your children what's going on so they don't end up being something they can't even resist themselves. So why do you think the Democrats are pissing off the Republicans so hard with whatever they're saying? Because the more the Republicans resist them, the more they'll be entrenched to be who they are and what you are and what you're bred to be, and your women will follow you right over the cliff, because that's what wives are supposed to do in any traditional relationship, is to follow their man over the cliff, and women are doing that. Especially right-wing Republican women, and that was not an accident. Or be so distracted with their children and families they don't even know what's going on right in front of their face. It's not a coincidence. You guys are playing your roles very well. And so we have beta males saying all food is poison, and we have alpha males telling you MK Ultra is how they're programming society into fear, as they're instilling fear into you, and using their alpha male bravado, and then making fun of the VED. While the beta males are killing you with kindness and love, telling you they're so spiritual and how they love you so much, but you don't see the alpha males telling you how much they love you. No, they're extremely caustic and acidic in their delivery around the system and what it's doing, because they are the system. They are the MK Ultra, and that's how they were bred to be in their society early on in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. You're playing your roles very well, alpha and beta males. Like, I'm serious. Just watch the alpha and beta males. And then you'll be like, oh my God, yeah, oh my God. And look at all the influencers. I'm telling you, they're either come from love or hate. And they're trying every tactic to get you to understand where they're coming from so they can save you from, I don't know what, from yourself, I guess. Self-sabotage. Don't you think these alpha males and beta males are self-sabotaging themselves? But they would never say that what they're doing is self-sabotage. I mean, even the what was that? White orchid? Oh, magnolia. What was it called? White magnolia? Magnolia? Shit. Magnolia movie. I remember that was with Tom Cruise. Okay, come on. All right, let me see this. Tom Cruise movie, Magnolia. Yeah, Magnolia. And it was a movie with so many different intersecting storylines. And Tom Cruise played a charismatic. He played a guru, a male influencer. Magnolia. Oh my God, I gotta post this. Fucking A. What is it? God dang it. Magnolia, Tom Cruise. He played that influencer. It's like, oh, the male, how he's just propping up the men. Men, be men, be men. Okay? And guess what all these males out there are doing? They're telling men to be men. They're telling, and they're like, oh, you want to learn how to get a girl, you want to learn how to do this and that. Oh, yeah. They're telling you, men be men, and also get off the V's, and here, take my supplements and detoxes. Oh, here's my book about my lifestyle and belief system. When Tom Cruise parodies the future, laugh out loud. Now watch all the alpha males play the part of Tom Cruise. That's fucking funny. Oh my God, that is funny. Oh, that's so funny. I love movies. I watch so many movies. It's so great. What is it? I should say this is, hold on. Watch all the alpha male influencers. Tom Cruise telling men how to be men. Training men how to be extreme men. Oh my God. Oh my God. Jeez. That is some funny shit. Okay, sorry. I just had to go there. So yeah, you're playing your role very well, alpha and beta males. And so then on top of that, then you have man belts out Tina Turner hit as he's shot by cops after decapitating his parents and dog. So now you have this extreme male, so full of testosterone and rage. Oh yeah, now look at your Facebook and all the raging males out there. Oh, it's crazy. It's freaking crazy. Okay? So this is who I've been. I'm a negative pessimist because I know, the good times only last so long. It was in my household, the good times only lasted so long. When I was a kid. And even out there in society, when it comes to a job or anything else, the good times only last so long. I've always done this. When I talk about the worst case scenarios, to optimists, they frown upon entertaining worst case scenarios. And they say you're such a negative Nancy. You're always thinking the worst, etc., etc., etc. Optimists need to be thankful for people like me, so that way they're not traumatized when they can't be optimistic when something died right next to them. Okay? And so I didn't know if there was an actual behavior category for my way of doing things. Defensive pessimist. Okay? All right, what's a defensive pessimist? Give me a second. That approach is often referred to as defensive pessimism. It's a strategy when you envision the worst case scenarios to better prepare for potential outcomes. By doing this, you can create plans and solutions in advance, which can help reduce anxiety and improve your ability to handle unexpected situations. That's the Illuminati. The Illuminati, or the Rosicrucians, and your fucking government are defensive pessimists because they're watching all of you, knowing exactly how shit's going to end up, and they're trying to redirect from total human extinction and catastrophe. But these optimists who are dangerous, like literally dangerous, don't even want to face what the hell is going on. You know? And so the defensive pessimist is going to get into action and make sure the optimist doesn't freaking die from their own lack of preparation. I can probably bet you that suicide, infanticide, and murder-suicides and homicides happen when the optimist can't handle what they never prepared for. Optimists, extreme optimists, never entertained the possibility something could happen to them. They always thought they had control over everything, even their government and the economy and other people. And when they find out they can't and they have to do things differently, and they never had the training from anyone to redirect and evolve and adapt to the changes, that's what happens. That's why evolution is so important. So you don't annihilate yourself and your family because you can't handle change and transition. And so, yeah, so you can be such an optimist that when you can't be an optimist anymore because finally reality is kicking down the door, people, then they destroy themselves. They destroy their family. It's infanticide, suicide, murder-suicide, domestic violence too. So I asked Copilot, which is a Bing type of chat thing, you know, Chat GPT, artificial intelligence, what is it called when you imagine the worst case scenario so you can prepare for the scenario when it happens? That was me asking Google or asking Bing. And Copilot said, that approach is often referred to as defensive pessimism. It's a strategy when you envision the worst case scenarios to better prepare for potential outcomes. By doing this, you can create plans and solutions in advance, which can help reduce anxiety and improve your ability to handle unexpected situations. Now you know why people die suddenly. Because they could not handle change and adaptation. They try to stay cured in the illusion. That's what these alpha and beta males are trying to do, is make you stay cured and try to resist change. And when you're resisting change, trying to stay cured, you're going to annihilate yourself. They couldn't resist reality or the evolution anymore, and so reality evolution killed them. That's what happens to family annihilators and murder-suicide situations. The matriarch or the patriarch could not handle change or evolution, and so instead of suffering to change and evolve and survive, it's like a creationist situation. They had to create a situation to get out without having to change, no more suffering. That's kind of how certain religions operate. They came into pleasure and paradise, and they can't handle suffering, so they go right into rest and peace once their pleasure and paradise are challenged. But sometimes it's pretty violent. That's why you stay home and stay safe. And we're in that situation right now with these alpha and beta males trying to find a way to deal with the evolution, and they can't. It's really, really bad. Watch what's going on out there. And what prompted me to say that? Because there's been 25 in 1 week domestic violence situations in Columbus, Ohio. And so then there's a murder-suicide of a man killing his wife and then killing himself. People say people are doing this because they're losing everything. Yes, it's difficult. Well, that's That's putting it mildly. It's extremely difficult right now. List out your expenses. Turn in your expensive toys. Find ways to wean off your addictions. Learn to live on almost nothing. One person out of a couple must be in tune with the reality of what's going on to help the other person acclimate. If both of you are not in tune with the reality, then reality is going to kick people in the butt, and then people will feel hopeless. Somebody must be grounded in reality. That's why I am the way I am. Okay? Not because I just love living in pessimism and I'm such a mean, fucking cold person. No, there's got to be someone who can see what is going on, can see the fucking future. How do you see the future? Because I see indicators. I'm doing what the system has been doing for centuries. I was luckily programmed to be that way. There's got to be somebody in your circle of people who has a finger on the situation, and you can't resist. I mean, you can try, you can resist, but you'll destroy yourself. But when you resist something, when you resist change, you become dangerous. That's why our society is so dangerous. Change is happening, people are resisting, and they're going off the fucking deep end. Okay? And so, if both of you, okay, so there must be someone who will say everything is going to be okay in that relationship, no matter what happens. No matter what I say almost about diet suddenly and whatever, people have to deal with the current situation and step-by-step process to figure out how to change everything to survive. So even though I say I'll talk about diet suddenly, that's the worst case scenario is diet suddenly. But right now people are dealing with loss of jobs, diagnosable conditions, aggressive ones. They're dealing with so many things going on, and so they have to do things systematically. So change is going to come fast. For people, they have to get into a stable situation in order to face another change. According to the comments, this is the second couple that did this in Columbus, Ohio. The system told us they're dismantling your kingdom. It's not sustainable. Even the monarchy is breaking up with their own BS and becoming a little bit more grounded. So many people are stressed out. Somebody must be living in reality. Nobody cares how much money you make. Nobody cares how great you are at your job, really, How much wood is nobody cares how much wood is tacked up on your wall from all the awards and accolades from your peers and bosses. Nobody cares if you have a huge house and expensive toys and cars and machinery. I know you care. I know you think it's a symbol of status in the American dream. The American dream was always about evolving the next dream, and sometimes it's a nightmare for people. The American dream wasn't killing yourself for an image. The American dream wasn't collecting souls. I mean, it probably was, but not really. Think about it. The American dream also has a segment of reality that even Americans must face. When you dream, it's only for a couple hours, and you have to wake up. Literally, you have to wake up. Why do you think so many people are going off the deep end? Because they never prepared for the aggressive change that they weren't even in control of. They had never imagined the worst case scenario, and so they ended up traumatized, and they took somebody else's life with them. And that's the saddest of all. No matter what, you'll survive if you have the intention. Even fame and influence and popularity only last so long. One of these days, the people who are so high up on their pedestal and status will experience everything tumbling down at some point. It could be a diagnosis. It could be a death of a loved one so close to them. It could be a loss of a job. It could be a natural disaster or an accident. Nothing lasts forever, but you can survive if you set yourself up correctly for it. Many times I think about the worst case situation or scenario, and I walk myself through that whole situation from January all the way to December. I factor in every aspect of what could happen and what would I do in response to what would happen. I factor in what I can live without. I factor in what I would need help in. I mean, when it's so hot and then let's say your electricity goes out, where are you going to go? When it's so cold, how are you going to be warm when you have no electricity? I factor in so many scenarios that will leave people completely traumatized looking for so many people to help them. I don't want to depend upon other people to get me through aggressive situations, so I have to imagine the worst. It's nice that I'm around for my husband and vice versa, but what happens when something happens? Do we have what it takes to pick up where somebody else left off and not be so broken up over it, or have to replace them with somebody else to do the things that we can't do? Do we have what it takes to deal with aggressive change that the life we had doesn't look like the life we will have in the future? And that's some pretty heavy shit that people are not prepared for. And I face those feelings when the situation hasn't happened yet, so I can remember what it feels like and remember all the different options I have available when it does happen. It's like developing experiences before they even happen, so that way I'm prepared for it when it does happen. And I didn't realize there was an actual behavior, like the name of that behavior, defensive pessimism. It's like developing purposeful hypothetical trauma to make me remember before the trauma actually happens, so it's not so traumatizing. And then I can effectively get into action to redirect any potential emergency situation. My mother trained me for all this shit. I mean, God damn it. I don't know what you call it. I have no idea. And then I Googled it. Oh, jeez. Okay, mother leaves 3-month-old baby in hot car to go horse riding. See, what the hell? And then woman drops out of Oxford to become an adult worker despite IQ higher than Einstein. Well, extreme intelligence doesn't mean shit unless you're putting it towards something that you're going to help the world or help yourself. She's helping herself. Good for her. Okay? If someone succeeds in provoking, you realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. And that's so wow. It's taken me 8 years not to react angrily to provocation. And it's not even avoidance or brainwashing myself into not reacting. Simply, I just don't see the point in provoking somebody else provoking me. So I just walk away. It's kind of dumb to provoke strangers, right? Unless you're desperate for attention. And that's such a matter of fact type of reaction that I'm even amazed I even say this, you know. Sometimes I'm funny with people on Facebook. I might come off as provoking, so sometimes I delete comments before it comes off as, because it might come off as that. Yeah. As I could be, I could be like an alpha male and make fun and all in jest, but alpha males gotta stop making fun of other guys, okay? Just stop. All right, so Klaus Schwab warns of era of shocking events, or that's someone's perspective. And there's Klaus Schwab, The Fourth Industrial Revolution by Klaus Schwab. And so you can read those two articles on my Facebook. I'll put them in my account, my Jilly Juice account. And so someone said 90% of the food in grocery stores today didn't exist 90 years ago. Guess what? 90% of the diseases we face today didn't either. Think about that. Yeah. Today, 90% of the humans who have diseases didn't exist 90 years ago. Yeah, humans are the disease. Okay? You have to be the one to know how to survive the people around you. The disease. It was all the V's which brought 90% of your disease, also known as children who turn into deficient adults, into society, as well as their intolerance to air, food, and water. Remember the baby boom. All right? And so the Burning Man, oh gosh, someone already died in Burning Man already. Attendees dies on the first day of Burning Man. Shit, they didn't even start and they died. Well, yeah, because you know what's going on. Climate change, and they probably have a lifestyle that's going to contribute. And so last summer it was a fear of the Ebola. Now, this year is not so distant cousin, the MPX. But last year they didn't have voluntary lockdowns for some mosquito-borne virus in Massachusetts. There was probably the same rate of death suddenly, and it probably increased after Burning Man. I remember, people were, it was all rainy and all that stuff in the mud. There's these little, parasites are living in the mud, getting in people's bodies. And yeah, as far as murder, suicides, and infanticides, and domestic violence, and shootings, and accidents, well, there has definitely been an uptick since last year. And I'm sure this year's Burning Man will be just as influential, if not even more. When you have 73,000 people getting together, like last year in the desert, intertwining their DNA with all types of drugs and therapies, yeah, I could see why there would be some kind of new viral variant developed from all that. It had a year to incubate. 1 year, even more so. So there's okay, so I'm not going to oh yes, so we have people who are right-wing who don't like what the gaslighting Kamala Harris is saying about strength and joy. Yeah, there are a lot of aspects of Germany that the system has adopted, because we have been under so much experimentation for many, 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 many years. I don't know what my parents knew when they knew it. I don't know even what all the people in academia know what they know and when they knew it. The conspiracy world is true. Yeah, the Operation Paperclip. They made whatever they did back in World War II a bit more humane, where you're signing on the dotted line. But yeah, they had Olympics, they had sports and leisure, strength through joy. But you see people are going to mischaracterize it, like, oh, okay, so they adopted the strength through joy type of lifestyle to give people a little bit of a breather outside of working so they can have a nice well-rounded lifestyle. But then they're going to bring in everything else. Oh, we're going to have all those DEATH and then CAMPSs. Well, your family is like a DEATH, CAMPS. And you have your little beta or alpha male influencing your family to, go this direction or that direction, take away food, live on supplements and detoxes, say, here's the enemy over there. We have 300 million at least. No. You divide 300 million, divide that by 4. So that's families. Let's say 4 people in a family. Let's just say for shits and giggles. What is it? Okay. So you have, let's see. Can I use my calculator? So you have 300, say 300. 300 divided by 4 equals 75 million little Hitlers in America. Or Hitlerettes. Telling you the air, food, and water is poison, and don't eat food, and here's take all these supplements and go get your oncology. Here, smoke this cannabis, and here, have this lifestyle. Here, drink my juice. So it's like, yeah. So when there's definitely a lot of psychological operations going on, because someone posted, homework assignment, I need everyone to Google Kamala's slogan, strength through joy. After you've done this, let me know. You won't believe it. You've got to see it. I get it. I understand. That's why people like Trump. But remember, the Democrats are gaslighting the Republicans into being into such resistance and doing what they're trained to do. Who's they? The alpha and the beta males in both Democrat Republicans. And so there's definitely a lot of psychological operations going on. I read the Wikipedia page and I ignored the symbols and even the origination, and I just read the intention. I don't blame you for not getting past where it comes from, at least from that context. So the sports office organized tennis and skiing and likewise sports that the working class were previously unable to partake in. Its main concerns were in building everyday joy and improving the health of the masses, and the KDF took a keen interest in building the physicality and bodily strength of the German population. Physical education classes and gymnastic events were scheduled on weekends and after working hours, but also included skiing and hiking trips. It also encouraged workers to partake in physical exercise and sports, encouraging employers to provide access to facilities and equipment during work hours and after hours. So why is that bad? Oh, because it came from the Nazis? Okay. Doesn't mean just because you do this, it means that you're Nazi, you're going to adopt everything they did. No, they're going to take, like Rosicrucian, they take certain things from religion, from cultures, from war, spirituality, politics, science, and develop another evolution. And you got to get past where it came from. You got to get past where certain slogans that everyone likes, like, you feed a man for, you give a man a fish, feed him for a day. You train a man to go fishing and how to go fishing, you feed him forever, right? You teach a man to fish, you feed him forever. It came from Jesus Christ, but if you are anti-Christ, if you are atheist, you're like, oh God, it came from, Jesus. I'm not going to believe him. So, so you got to get past where the shit comes from and understand the actual intention. But many people cannot get past that because, well, I don't want to insult anyone, but you know where that goes. If you can't think abstractly and understand that there's merit in so many things, not relative, despite where it comes from, then you'll just stay stuck in correlation equals causation. And so, on top of that, and it's so funny. Like, I can see what happened. Like, I used to be a nanny, okay? I used to be a nanny. I had 2 families I worked for. Great kids. They ended up very successful. Of course, they had successful parents. And they were given great access. And now they're all either they're married and in a relationship in politics, or in some, or just have great friends. Okay? And so I came from a Jewish household in the Bay Area, so I'm sure that whatever family that allowed me to work for them, they looked at my background. Okay, so she's from the Bay Area. She's born or raised by very extremely, educated parents. That's why I was able to work for these families. And there wasn't died suddenly back then in the 90s. There was no died suddenly. Not with the kids. You didn't hear too much about child abuse or incest or, all this other shit. I mean, you hear about it in the back rooms, about people doing shit, and the government knew about that. So, I mean, I took care of these kids and picked them up and hung out with them for, until their parents came home. So I was a live-in nanny, and sometimes I lived, out. So it was like both live in and live out, even, lived in Hollywood for a minute. I'm like, I gotta go back to the Bay Area. But would I be a nanny today? No. Would I babysit anyone's kid today? No. Would I be alone with anyone's kids today? Fuck no. I wouldn't be employing your 16-year-old daughters to watch somebody's children. Something happened to that kid, that 16-year-old daughter's life is ruined. If something happens to that kid, that 16-year-old daughter's life is ruined. And she'll be under suspicion for the rest of her life. And if there's no cameras watching her, then there's no proof she's innocent. And that's the thing. You almost have to be in a big brother house when you're babysitting a kid and have cameras everywhere watching you. So that way if something happens to that kid, you have cameras. In the trucking industry, they have cameras now that record like 6 minutes before a sudden event, or seconds, I'm not minutes, seconds, and however many seconds after an event. And they have the cameras on the driver, the cameras on wherever around the truck, so they can see who was the one that did something to who first. And those cameras have saved many truck drivers' butts, because all the law enforcement had to do was just look at the camera, and they're like, okay, it was that person's fault, not the truck driver's fault. So imagine if you're taking care of somebody else's kid and they die suddenly and they happen to hurt themselves on the way down, which this girl is dealing with. And I'm like, oh God, the system found an example. The system found an example. She could actually be convicted, especially if they find other evidence to support her capability to inflict pain and suffering onto the child for whatever reasons, and even her family background could be picked apart. Because if she had abusive parents, then the propensity for her to abuse a child she's in charge of could be circumstantial evidence. Babysitting is not lucrative. Nope. Watching somebody else's kid, nope. Babysitting is not lucrative anymore. And you better get personal liability insurance if you're going to be a professional babysitter. I see people all over these crime watch groups saying, hey, can someone babysit my kid for like a few hours before they go to this? Anyone that volunteers to make a little bit of money, make a little quick, easy money babysitting someone's kids, nope. You're putting yourself in harm's way. Because imagine something happened to that kid. And especially here in Canton, Ohio, something happens, and there's people here pretty rough and tough over here. Rough and tumble. Right? And they have big family. And something happened to that kid. You were nice. You were a nice neighbor. Watch that kid. They're part of a big family. Kid dies. Something happens along the way down while the kid's, falling from a heart attack or stroke or something. Who knows? And different body parts get hit along the way. Who the hell knows? Or there was abuse going on before even the babysitter was doing stuff. Or, babysitting and the kid dies. And that kid dies. Now the family is so upset. The family's going like, what the hell? And then you have the mother who's like, well, something's going on in that family or whatever. And the mother is like, well, it's not my fault. I put my child in this person's care. I'm not taking responsibility for this. And then she's going to go and make herself look good, of course. And she's going to go file a lawsuit. And then get her family on board, her whole family on board. And if her family is so well connected, that person doesn't stand a chance. I wouldn't put myself in that position, guys. Babysitting is not lucrative. Babysitting is not lucrative anymore, and you better get personal liability insurance if you're going to be a professional babysitter. Even then, personal liability is just saying that you have insurance to pay for some court costs, but it's not going to get you away from a conviction. But at least you get help on paying for the court costs to hire a lawyer to defend you. You better get cameras watching you the whole time. You better tape yourself the whole fucking time. But the arguments, all these poor parents are so overworked and stressed out, and they need someone to help them. Tough shit. They chose to have a kid. They chose to take on 2, 5, 10 kids, and now they're going to be employing some 16-year-old to watch their child, or some PhD student in college that they know very well to watch their kid. They're going to put the life of their child in somebody else's hands. And in this day and age, it's pretty dangerous with all the things that are going on with died suddenly and predators. But Jillian, you had babysitters. Yeah, it was a different time back then. We had neighbors watch us. 2 college students. Maybe one was high school. It was the 80s. People refuse to accept the notion that times have changed. If you're so stressed out as a parent, maybe you shouldn't be a parent. If anything, it happens to your child, regardless of why. I don't care if somebody else did something or something happened. You will want to blame somebody else. And when it comes to the child and the suffering, the parent will always put the blame somewhere else, but never on themselves. You brought them into this world not knowing what it really takes to take care of them. And then you put them in the hands of strangers and even friends and family, and then won't take full responsibility when something happens to them. You'll file a lawsuit and sue somebody, creating more misery out of your situation. Would any parent say, maybe I should not have brought them into this world to be in a situation they cannot survive? Why would you sue anyone for why it is your animal or your child suffered an injury? First of all, you weren't there. And second of all, you have no idea what the fuck you were doing. And if you're using FDA-approved protocols and your child still gets a reaction, then you brought an extremely deficient child into this world. Because what are you going to do? You're not going to understand that reaction is normal and just feed the kid and release demons, whatever the fuck that means. But it's not going to even matter. If you're not equipped to deal with raising a kid and they're getting reactions to all the things that is supposed to cure them, and then you want to go and sue, then you brought in a pretty weak child into this world. Why is that anyone's fault but you and your husband's fault, who also agreed to bring in a defenseless child into this world? That you can't even protect yourself because you're giving your child to the medical holistic system. Why would you bring something as defenseless as a baby into this world that you can't even protect yourself? Why? And so that's why I say do not babysit other people's children, especially if they can't speak. This is insane. Oh my gosh. She is allegedly, so it is alleged that this girl that babysit these children sexually abused them and also committed a type of torture that a fracture on the skull was the outcome. Her side of the story was she went out of the room to get something and heard a scream and found the baby fell out of its bouncer and hit its head, and there was injuries, and you can't read the article, and you can read that in the article. She called the parents and then also took the kids to the hospital, at which the hospital saw the injuries, of which who knows where they originated from, but she was the last one with the baby. And how do you prove she didn't abuse them? And how do you prove the child fell out of its bouncer? How do you prove that? So police allege she is responsible for inflicting a fracture to a baby Leon's skull and several bleeds on the brain picked up by the CT scan. She's also accused of injuring Leon's twin brother, Ari, who survived, Ari. Court documents filed last week shows the Allegheny County District Attorney's Office is seeking the death penalty against Verzi. Holy shit. The death penalty. Oh, they're going to make an example out of her. Oh my God. The filing, which laid out the reasons for seeking the death penalty, reads, the defendant committed the killing while in the perpetration of a felony. The offense was committed by means of torture. Holy shit. Verzi was a trusted friend of the baby's parents, Ethan Katz and Savannah Roberts, who was watching the twins while on her college break. A college student watching twin babies? God. Police allege she told the cops she's gone into the kitchen to get one of the twins' bottles when she suddenly heard screaming. When she returned, she said the baby had fallen out of its bouncer. She then called 911. She spotted an injury to Ari's groin area, notified his parents, and continued to babysit Leon as they took Ari to UPMC Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh to get the injury assessed. According to court filings, a doctor told investigators the injuries sustained by both twins are consistent with having been sustained as a result of child abuse, as these are inflicted injuries that are not natural and not accidental. Verzi maintains her innocence. Oh my God. When she said already that there was an injury to the groin area, and she saw it, and she mentioned it, She implicated herself. And could that have happened? Could something have happened that there was injuries inflicted, not natural, accidental, before she watched him? It doesn't even matter at this point. It doesn't even matter at this point. That's how dangerous it is. Yeah, taking on somebody else's children before they're able to speak is very slippery slope, even with children who can speak. Never, ever be alone with any child, because you don't know what the hell they've been through, even with their own parents. And I didn't even know that back then when I'm in my 20s taking it, but that was the thing. There wasn't like something, nannies were all over. Everybody had a nanny. All the rich people in Silicon Valley, Bay Area, East Bay, North Bay, South Bay, they all had nannies. Not all of them. A lot of them had nannies. Did you hear about anything? Not so much. If it did happen, you wouldn't hear it in the news too much, because the news is talking about, other shit. Never, ever be alone with any child. Never, ever, ever, unless you're the parent. And even then, how do you explain if you're not watching them what happens to them when something happens to them, especially now? You think the parents are, if there was sexual abuse going on in that family, by whoever, it may not even be the parents, it could have been a relative that was visiting for a minute. And so then she is now going to be implicated in that event. Oh my God. And some of these reactions to these children aren't always detectable on test. So a child can have a reaction to something causing them to do something erratic and hit their head and fall out of something. And if you're not watching them 100%, that's going to be such a horrible situation trying to prove your innocence. That's why you need to have cameras. And I said before, a couple of weeks ago, these parents will not take personal responsibility for whatever. And if they can use you as a scapegoat or blame you for whatever, the parents will. I don't care how well you know them or how friendly you are with them. When it comes down to their children and who's going to be the bad guy, it will never be them. Let me tell you, these parents will blame somebody for other kids had a situation. Whatever. Why those kids had a situation. And how do you know anything? And here's the thing. They knew this girl. They knew her well enough to leave their children home alone with them. It is the parents' fault. Is it the parents' fault? Well, whoever chose to watch that children eventually took on the responsibility. Well, whoever chose to watch that child voluntarily took on the responsibility for the life of that child. And in this environment, with died suddenly and crazy reactions to things going on, there's no way for you to know how that child's going to end up. You take your eyes off them for a second, even then you try to stop what happened. There is no guarantee anything. I would not be watching anyone's kids at all whatsoever. Point blank, don't put your 16, 17, 20-year-old kid in that position, parents, so you can make a little bit of money. No. I wouldn't be employing your 6-year-old daughter to watch somebody's children. Something happens, that 6-year-old daughter's life is ruined and she'll be under suspicion. Babysitting is not lucrative. Babysitting is not lucrative anymore. You better get personal liability insurance if you're going to be a professional babysitter. And even then, it doesn't even matter. You better have cameras watching you. I wouldn't even do it. Nope. You couldn't pay me enough to watch somebody else's child. Nope, you could not. And even grandparents. Okay? Organic versus GMO. If I'm going to pay for something like nutrition, I will choose genetically modified over the organic, because genetically modified has so many fortified nutrients. And if I get more bang for my buck, What's funny is watching these organic people who can't eat food or breathe the air or drink the water pay $500. Now I'm exaggerating. For that little tiny organic piece of food, and they think it's healthy and healing and so good for you. Just drive into the grocery store, you end up using energy eating that organic food, and how will you say now you're still in deficit? Oh wait, no, you don't drive a car because you're part of the green machine. So you rode your bike and you have saddlebags on your bike, and so you used up more energy getting to the grocery store than the benefit you get out of your little organic food. If you're all about riding your bicycle or walking everywhere, you need to genetically modify food and fat and protein and the milk and the meat and the cheese and the eggs so you can afford to walk to the grocery store and get your food. But what's funny is we have extremely deficient people buying organic with huge cars like Hummers, making up the difference and saving them the energy of having to use it to go buy their food and hunt and gather in a postmodern society. And so they have little to no exertion to get their food, yet they can't even eat the food. And so they're buying less food and they're starving to death because the environment has kicked up and they're paying so much for organic food, giving them nothing, and paying so much for their Humvee and all the gas, and they're all deteriorating. So what's left when someone dies? Their house, their big cars, all their collections and family and souvenirs from all their experiences. And so you see what happened. So you see what people rather spend their money on. Things they can't eat, okay? Or the activism against the government saying that they're killing them when they're actively starving themselves, buying shit they don't need. How do you spend money on things you can't eat? That's called toys and experiences. You can't eat toys, you can't eat experiences. Oh yeah, read the comments and the emojis on this girl who died suddenly. Tragedy, a star gymnast plunges 260 feet down mountain to her death while taking a selfie. And her boyfriend, was there. So Barbie and Ken hit it again. Read the comments and look at the emojis, and yeah, how can you not chuckle? Because this is happening all too often with people who are so into themselves, completely unaware of their surroundings, and dying for social capital. It's an epidemic of youth who are all about superficiality, pleasure in paradise, and feeling so good that they destroy themselves with their bad choices. And it seems they all have the same call sign, such as an influencer and, of course, are hot and sexual, selling you pleasure. Right there is the indicator of the cabin in the woods was telling you. The cheerleaders and the football players are the first sacrificial lambs, as well as the eggheads who don't have the body to support the brains. You think I'm being cold and mean? No, you're watching an epidemic of the Zoomers putting all their importance on beauty and influence and sexuality and collecting subscribers to the point of destruction. The mother bred that kind of superficiality into their daughters, and now we're watching the fallout. Barbie has gone off the deep end. Ken is just driving the Barbie mobile around with his plastic smile, completely oblivious to what he's supporting. Now look at all your Barbie dolls on your Facebook all over the influencing community. It's crazy. Now you get to see it. You think I'm being a hater? It's what makes you feel better, supporting the destruction of young girls and boys, then I guess I'm a hater. Go enjoy the show, right? See the Ken dolls out there, the influencers telling you air, food, and water is poison. Here's the MK Ultra, right? Go enjoy the show. Because obviously life isn't really sacred. Because obviously too many people think life is something to take for granted and to be used and abused and to be commodified for YouTube to line the family coffers. I do feel sorry for these daughters. Their mothers did commodify them and turn them into sexual playthings for the world. And that's the only thing these girls know how to do. How do they know this? Because they were taught by their family. The family is usually the first human trafficker, and the mother is the first one to traffic her own daughters and sons. It's the truth. It's hot up here. Sirens, yeah. So there you go. I spoke a lot of freaking truth, and I wouldn't be surprised if I lost more friends. That's okay. Were they really friends? No, they were just, observers. But yeah, so there you go. That's all I'm going to say right now. But yeah, watch all the alpha males and alpha females, and watch them use their kids, commodify their kids, teaching them, responsibility by watching another person's child who may or may not survive. And then they get implicated in something like a died suddenly and there's injuries. I feel sorry for these girls and boys out there. I feel sorry for these kids. I feel they're in a different world and their parents don't even fucking know it. You gotta feel sorry for these kids. All right, bye.